So earlier this week, we did have a new PlayStation 5 system that was unveiled, and it fell in line with the rumors we heard previously that it would be a system with a detachable disk drive that would come in smaller than the current PlayStation 5, and I guess would fill in for the spot of the PlayStation 5 Slim, even though Sony doesn't call it a PlayStation 5 Slim. Nonetheless, when it was revealed, it wasn't next to the current PlayStation 5, so it was kind of hard to gauge exactly how much smaller it would be. Well, based on some new renderings that people actually matched up to the dimensions that were released by Sony, turns out the system might be smaller than people were expecting. We're going to take a look at that, though, here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new here to the SpawnWave Plus channel. Let's take a look here. This is posted up over on PlayStation Blog, where they go over some of the specifications, which is basically going to be the same as the current PS5, minus a few things. One, the 1 terabyte SSD, sure. And then the ports on the front, those being the USB-C ports rather than one Type A and one C. They're both just USB-C at this point, but they do still have USB Type A ports on the back. However, one part that was interesting is we do have the approximate dimensions here, which let people basically take those and make 3D renderings to match up to the current PlayStation 5 system. We know that Sony themselves mentioned that it had dropped like 30% in terms of volume, and the weight was dropped 18% and 24%, of course, depending on if it has a disk drive attached to it or not. So if we take a look at some of the renderings here that are made by Nature Certain over on Reddit, we can see this appears to be a fair bit smaller, I think, than most were expecting. Even myself, you kind of hear and you see it and you're like, I mean, I guess that looks smaller, but then you pair it up next to what's a behemoth of a system, right? This looks like a substantial reduction in terms of its overall footprint. Now, these are 3D renderings, which obviously means it's an approximation. So would this necessarily be exactly how it looks in person? Maybe, maybe not. But I do think this is intriguing enough to make the comparison in person, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to get this PlayStation 5 system for a video, was to, yes, compare it to the current system. Now, they don't have the disk drive system compared to it's digital system for the new one, and then the disk-based one here, which is kind of odd. I don't know if that's just because they wanted to match up, I guess, the height and all of that for it. Although there are like Photoshop jobs that are being done right now where basically the disk drive slot is measured up, and that's how they're able to compare it, because you figure the disk drive slot would be basically the same size on both since it's taking the same disk. So that at least makes sense. Now, some have wondered about the cooling for the new PS5, and that part is very intriguing to me because I know there were also rumors that were going around about them dropping liquid metal for the system. I don't necessarily know if they're going to go that route, but I'm sure it would save them some money, and that's what Sony's all about right now. While they did raise the price of this, certainly the reduction in size is going to help them when it comes to logistics with shipping and the weight being reduced, all of that, right? But the other part about this is they've most likely changed the fabrication. I believe they started at 7 nanometers. They went to 6 nanometers with the current PlayStation 5. It was in the same shell, same size, all of that. But they did technically shrink the fabrication for the chip. And now the rumors are that they've gone to a 5 nanometer fabrication for this current PlayStation 5, the one we're expecting to come out in, like a month? That, paired with maybe a revised heatsink, would actually make it work probably better than the current PS5 when it comes to heat. Although the PS5 now, while it gets hot, is pretty good when it comes to its acoustics. I am curious if this one will be able to be any quieter, or really if it just stays at the same level. I think most people consider that a win. Also, I did want to point this out. I've had some time to think about this PlayStation 5 revision a bit, and I'm really curious what this stand exactly looks like away from the PS5, because here it legitimately looks like a tiny little toothpick kickstand thing going on. And it is odd that Sony felt the need to remove the current stand that I think does a fairly good job. Mine's always vertical or horizontal. And whenever I have it vertical, I don't feel like I need the stand necessarily for the amount of time that it is standing up, which is just to record footage for, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour or so at times. So it is odd that they felt the need to go to this setup here, but we've only ever seen it just like this. So I'm curious, is it like this little triangle looking thing, or does it run to the back and have extra feet to it? So that's the one other thing I'm unsure about. Then obviously the internals and how these plates come off. So there's still a lot of questions around this device, and I am looking forward to picking it up and finding out a bit more. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below, specifically with the size that's kind of being portrayed here with these 3D renders. Are you surprised that it actually appears to be quite a bit smaller? And is this something you're interested in picking up? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.